Hello and welcome back to the 6th installment of the Citizen exclusive video tutorial series from BlenderCookie.com on modeling the M4 assault rifle. My name is Jonathan Williamson and we're going to pick up here in part 6 where we left off with a lot of the body detailing. You'll notice on this final render from the previous section that we got a lot of the body forms down, most of the main mesh constructed, but now we've got to go in and do all the fine detailing that you can see, for example, in this shot right here. So things like the nuts and bolts or pins, I guess I should say, and some of these ridges. And so we're going to go in and start doing some of that detailing. This will be a little bit tedious because we've got a lot of small details to work with, but hopefully we'll make some good progress. And if time allows, we'll move on to doing the grip and or the clip. So let's just switch over to Blender here. And I'm just going to maximize my view. You can see exactly where our mesh was left off. And so we've got a nice clean mesh that we're ready to work with. And I want to go ahead and start by finalizing this top section right in here. And we can look at this and say there's definitely a few issues with it as far as the overall construction's concerned. One, we need to adjust this piece in here, as it actually needs to have the same top ridges that this one has over here. So the first thing that I want to do is to go ahead and make that more accurate. So we have this top piece. Let me hide this. We have this piece here, and it really ought to be the exact same height as this over here. So I'm just going to, while in edit mode, hit B to bring up my box select, and then left click and drag, and just grab this entire section here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in here, hit Control Shift Tab to switch my snapping type over to vertex, and you'll notice my default state is off, such that I'll have to hold down Control when I activate my transform to enable the snapping. But what I want to do is snap this top vertex along the Z-axis and the Z-axis only to this top vertex right up here so it gets the exact same height. So I'm just going to hit G, Z, hold down Control, and hover over one of these vertices until it gets accurate, and right there. And since it's set to closest, it grabs the closest vertex along the Z-axis to snap to that, and now that's perfectly lined up. We can double check these ones here, just double check that by Alt right clicking that selected the entire loop, and it did. And we can just hit G and Z, snap to that one there. We'll do the same thing with this one, snapping to, if we can zoom in here, to that there. Let's double check, just get a little closer. And okay, there we go. You'll notice that since it's on optimal display, it doesn't show exactly accurate within the wireframe mode. And so that's just something you need to be aware of. And actually, if we turn off the... Oh, never mind. We're all right. We're good. Okay, so now what I want to do is we've got this height correct now. So now what we need to do is first, we need to go ahead and make these the exact same width. And so I'm just going to go to front view again. I'm going to select all of this. And to get me better screen real estate, I'm just going to hit Shift Space to maximize this viewport. And then I'm going to hit 3 to switch into side view. Or actually I'm going to rotate around here, just using my middle mouse button to the back. And I'm going to hit G, Y, and hold down Control, and snap right to there. And let's go and hit Control 3, which will switch to the back view. And now if we move this around along the Y-axis, we can see whether or not it's snapped correctly. And it looks like it's pretty darn close, and in fact it's close enough for me. So we're going to leave that like it is now. And what I want to do is to go ahead and grab this mesh right here. You'll notice that this has several different arrays on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate it. I'm going to move this over, although I'm first going to switch my snapping mode, hit Control Shift Tab, switch the snapping back to increment, and then just hit G, X, hold down Control, and snap it over like this. And these ridges are going to start pretty much lined up with the base of the trigger right here. And so let's just go ahead and bring this over to be about right there. Should be about right, I think. Or actually, yeah, we'll just go about right there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Tab to go into edit mode, and I'm going to select everything by hitting A, and then hovering over these two pieces of the mesh, I'm going to hit Shift L and Shift L, and then hit X and delete vertices. Now, you'll notice that when we did that, some of this moves over. And so what we'll need to do is to go ahead and switch the array, after we hit X and delete, we now need to set the array to a constant offset rather than a relative offset. So let's uncheck the relative, check the constant. Let's go ahead and first just set it to 1, which we can see then just increases it way too much. And one thing let's also do is let's hit Tab to go into edit mode. Let's select everything and hit Shift S and cursor to selected. Then we'll hit Tab and hit Control Alt Shift C and set the origin to the 3D cursor. And that way, when we set this to 1, well, actually, we may need to apply the size. So if we hit Control A, apply the scale. Oh, right. Sorry, I'm completely blanking for a second. And the constant offset is set to 1 because that's the grid unit size. And so what we actually want to do is we want to uncheck that. We're going to use the relative offset again, and we're just going to increase the relative offset until this distance here, which we can see better if we hit in and disable our background images temporarily. We can see that this distance here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're going to go ahead and set this hopefully to 1.8, and that should be, nope, that's not right. Let's do 1.4, and then we get this to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 with the 2 halves. So there we go. That's at least really close to being the exact same distance. So that should be just fine. And then you also notice that something is, our mirror modifier has now been disrupted. So what we want to do is we're going to turn off the Z mirror and turn off or hit Tab to go into edit mode. We want to go ahead and Alt right click to select this loop, Alt Shift right click to select this loop, hit Shift S, cursor to selected, leave edit mode with Tab, and then we can recenter the origin again, leaving it along the center line based on the center of those objects rather than the center of the mesh as a whole. And so this way, when we hit Control Alt Shift C, origin to 3D cursor, now our mirror modifier is functional again. Okay, we'll save our file, and we can see that maybe since we don't have the exact alignment, it's okay if we're not exact. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this along the x-axis until it just snaps right here. So let's just go ahead and move it approximately over. Let's hit Control Shift Tab to switch the snap type back to increment. We'll hit G, X, hold down Control, and snap right to this vertex. If we may need to zoom in a little bit to get it accurate. Right there. Okay. There we go. So that'll work nicely. Let's go ahead and save the file again. And now what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and select this mesh again, hit Tab to go into edit mode. And one thing that I want to do is to fix this area right in here, because currently this is not accurate. And so I'm just going to select all this by Alt right clicking and then Alt Shift right clicking. Then you'll notice that I've selected this area down here as well. So I can just hit B and then middle click and drag to deselect using my box select mode. And then I'm just going to hit X and delete vertices so I can redo this area from scratch. And what you'll find that it's not accurate is that this form needs to continue on up and through there a little bit more. And the way that we're going to determine where this needs to be is we are going to select this edge loop. We're going to hit E to extrude, and then we're going to take it down along the Z axis by hitting Z, and then just snap right to that vertex. And the reason I'm going right to that vertex, it probably will, well actually let's snap to that vertex there. That way it'll be about the right height. And then all we need to do is to go ahead and bring this circle in just a little bit further. So I'm going to select this loop. I'm going to hit X, delete the vertices. And then what we can do is that'll fill pretty nicely. I'm going to go ahead and hit Tab to leave edit mode, and then just hit Shift H to hide everything else so that we can see this much more clearly. And actually what we need to do is if we look at our reference, which we can bring this back up here, we can see that this flat part actually goes right to the top of this piece coming down through here. So what we want to do is let's reselect this mesh, And we're going to just go ahead and snap this right to that vertex. And so that's where it needs to be. And that's also the meeting point. And so we can see that this here is actually way, way too wide. And so what I want to do is, I believe actually, if we look through some of our other references, let me pull this up real quick. Apologies for the messiness there, but pull up. Here we go. This reference here looks pretty good. We can see that this piece right in here, the front piece, is actually maybe a little bit wider than this one, although I believe I've got some extra ones in here that are a little more clear maybe. Oh, there it actually looks to be about the same. And so it may in fact be that this top piece, or this front piece here, is actually way too wide, but we're not going to worry about it for the time being. We can make those adjustments later if we need to. For the time being, though, we know that this is not accurate. And so what I want to do is to go ahead and thin it out. So what we'll do is let's, Alt-H. We're going to select this mesh, hit Shift-H to hide everything else. I'm going to hit 3 to go into side view. And what I'm going to do is, let's see, do we still have a perfect circle in here? No, we do not. Okay, I'm going to hit Alt-H. I'm going to select this mesh. And this form is basically created from this circle here originally. So let's select this circle by Alt-right-clicking. I'm going to hit Shift-D, right-click, hit P to separate the selection. Then I'll hit Tab to leave edit mode. I'm going to select this mesh, and then this mesh, and then actually reselect this one, and hit Control-J. And that just joins them together, because now I can go ahead and select this one. And I'm now just going to scale it down. First I need to hit comma because I was scaling towards the cursor. I'm going to scale it down until it's about the same size there. And so I can use this as my reference point for this mesh here. Okay, perfect. And that actually doesn't look to be a perfect circle for some reason. Okay, what I'm going to do, just in case, I'm going to hit Shift-S, cursor to selected, hit X, delete vertices, hit Shift-A, add mesh, and a circle. I'll hit F6 to bring up my operator panel. I'm going to change the vertices down to 12, and then I'm going to set it to align the view, and we'll just go ahead and scroll down the radius while holding down Shift until the size is accurate right there. And actually, I'm going to increase the circle count to 16, which gives me a nice count here, such that I can go ahead and turn off clipping, and I'll just rotate this around after switching to increment. Let's rotate this. You can see about like that. We're going to rotate it 12 degrees. Okay, actually, we're going to undo this. We're going to re-add that circle. Apologies for the confusion. We're going to going to 18 vertices. We're going to set this to 0.1 approximately, and align to view. And then we can go ahead and scale this up until it's accurate right about there. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is just extrude this. We'll hit N. We'll hit Shift Space to maximize this. We're going to hit Control Shift Tab to switch into vertex snapping. I'm going to hit E to extrude. Snap right there along the X-axis. We'll select this loop. We'll hit G, X, snap to right there. And what we'll do actually is we're going to replace our previous mesh that is a bit well, not necessarily. We'll use this just as the guide for the time being. And so now what I can do is see that this is way too wide. So let's just select this, and looking at the mesh, let's see, this should be right about there. Give me just a moment while I work through exactly how this ought to be. I'll come right down from that line there. Okay. See, this comes right to about right there, which is pretty much even with that. And so I'm going to, that actually looks to be about right. So what I want to do is we're just going to make this a bit skinnier. We're going to hit S, Y, and snap right to that vertex right there, which should be just about right and give us a nice even result. And if we look through some of our extra references here, we can find, I believe we have one that aims right down the sight. Okay, that's probably just about right. Maybe that's a little bit wide. So let's go ahead and what we're going to do is we're going to add in an edge loop right there, then right click, so it's Control R, left click. Let's go ahead and go into object mode just so we can reselect this and hide everything else. We'll bring this up slightly to restore the circle, and we're going to take this, we're going to hit G, Y, snap right to there. We'll take this edge loop, we're going to snap right down to that vertex, and that way it'll even right up. This should not have gotten moved away from the center. We need to re-enable snapping. Pull that right in. This shouldn't be quite that far in. There we go. Okay, now we can go ahead and we will remove this circle. Although actually before we do that, what we're going to do is we're going to select this loop and then deselect that vertex there, and we're going to hit Control Shift, or actually we're going to change into face snapping, and then we're going to enable this option here, which snaps to the surface of other objects. And what this will do is we're going to grab this mesh, we're going to go ahead and scale it along the x-axis all the way like this. We're going to select this one, deselect that right in there, and then from the front view, we're just going to hit G, Y, and left click, and that should snap. Oh, whoops, I forgot to hold down Control. So G, Y, Control, left click, and that should snap it right to that surface. Although it didn't. Oh, okay, what we need to do, we're going to select this, hit P to separate it, and now we should be able to do that. Okay, there we go. So now G, Y, snap right to that. Now you can see that it's snapped to the surface. Although actually that's less accurate. Okay, so we're going to completely ignore all that I just did. We're going to delete that other object, and we're just going to go ahead and merge these pieces. And so first things first, let's go ahead and select this edge, or these three vertices, hit Control-Shift-Tab, switch back into vertex snapping, hit E to extrude, or actually, undo that. And first we're going to add in another edge loop right here. We're then just going to hit G, Z, snap right to that vertex right there, and also along the y-axis. Actually, just along all axes, to snap that. And before we do that, we need to go ahead and reposition these ones. So we're going to snap them along the x-axis to right there. Now we can snap that to right there. We'll go ahead and restore our circle approximately. And we'll be able to get this nicely restored in a little bit here. But first things first, I want to go ahead and make this more accurate. We're going to add in 2 more loops right down here that then can snap to there. And actually, I didn't need to add that one, so we'll delete that edge loop. We'll grab this vertex, we'll snap it to right there. We're going to go ahead and remove that edge loop as well. We'll let this one and this one do the sharpening for us. Then we're going to grab this vertex and this vertex, hit GZ, snap up to there. And actually this one ought to, well, let's see. Now we're going to undo that. Instead, we're going to add in an edge loop right down through here. And then we can GZ, snap to right there. We'll grab this vertex, snap to there. Go ahead and select these two vertices, hit X, delete vertices. We'll go ahead and delete these ones as well. And then I'm going to select these, this loop, hit Control E, and edge slide. Slide right up to it's real close to that, and then just G and snap. And then we're going to add in an edge loop right down through here. Snap that one. Maybe we'll pull those up along the Z-axis just a little bit. And then we can go ahead and select everything and remove doubles. And that way, those are now all merged nicely there. In order to clean this up, we'll add in another edge loop right up to that. Or actually, instead, let's add one right down like so. That'll keep that a little cleaner and easier to maintain our circular form here. So to get this circle, I'm going to hit Shift A, add in a circle. I'm going to rotate it around the Y axis 90 degrees. So hit Y and then 90 degrees and hit Enter. I'm going to go ahead and Shift Space to go out of full screen. Disable clipping for a moment. I'm going to scale this down just about like this. And now all I'm going to do is just use this circle to match the profile of this one here. So now I can go ahead and select all of these loops, deselect those ones. So I'll select this, take it down, or take it in along the Y-axis actually. And I'm following the contrast, or the small lines, the subsurf lines. I'll grab this here. Not sure why that has been changed, as that should definitely still be circular. So pull this out along the Z or Y-axis. Also take it down a little bit. I'll take this one out. Take those down, just fitting the same distances here. I'll try and line these back up with their adjacent curves a little better. I'm just going to go ahead and add in another loop here and another loop here. Then I'm going to select these and restore that. That starts to get pretty close. At least we can make it a little bit more accurate as we go along. Okay, so what I want to do now is to restore this mesh in here. So I'm going to select these three vertices, hit E to extrude, X, snap to there, E to extrude, snap, and then just repeat that. So it's E, X, snap, E, X, and snap. So X snapping is just being control, obviously. And that one's not snapping quite accurately, so we'll snap back to there and back to there. Select everything, W, and remove doubles. So now we can see that we've got one nice mesh all the way along here, all the way back through there. And we can go ahead and we'll just see this from the side view, and maybe we need to go ahead and bring these down just a little bit. Select this, we can scale it up. And that actually matches pretty well, so we can probably just leave this be, although we'll go ahead and let's see, those are that. We're just going to select these. I'm going to hit S. Oops. reselect that one, deselect that one, hit S, Z, and 0. We're going to do the same thing right here. Will help get better consistency. See that maybe we need to go ahead and pull this one out along the y-axis a little bit. Same thing here. Okay, that starts to look pretty good. So that way our circle is a lot more accurate. We can select this, we'll hit X and delete. And what I want to do now is, one, we're going to add another mesh right here, or a loop. So it's Control R, select both of these. And actually I'm going to step back and keep my circle first. So that's Control R and then right click. And then we'll just bring these out along the y-axis like that. The reason being I was getting a flat surface there that I really didn't want. Okay, I'm going to hit Alt-H to unhide everything. We can start to see it coming together a little bit more. What I want to do now is I'm going to select this and go into side view. Actually, we're going to first go back to object mode, select everything, Shift-H. I'm going to select this, I'm going to scale it down, and then I'm going to deselect everything but the top portion, or actually, everything but the top and these bottom pieces right here. And I'm going to hit Shift-D, right-click, scale towards the cursor, and then hit S and Shift X, so it just scales down perfectly like this. Actually, I guess it's pretty much already in place, so instead we're just going to hit G, X, snap to right there. And what I want to do, never mind, we're going to delete that. Apologies for the kind of jumping around right there. We're going to select these two, we're going to delete those, and let's just take these, and we're going to hit E to extrude, right click, check where our cursor is positioned. We can go ahead and just scale towards the individual center, and we'll just scale these down, although we want to re-enable clipping first. We'll scale this down, maybe bring it in a bit extra along the x-axis, and then what I'm going to do is select these two vertices, and let's add in a loop right here. We'll then just hit S, Y, and 0, and then we're going to snap it along the y-axis to this vertex right here, such that we can go ahead and take this, hit E to extrude, snap it up to the bottom vertex, select everything, W, remove doubles, and then we're just going to add in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 edge loops, so hit Control R, then scroll up on your scroll wheel, and we've got 5 and 6, and then we can go ahead and just fill in these faces. And it's a little faster if you go into edge mode, so we can Control Tab, switch to edge, select one edge, select the other edge, hit F, and that way you don't have to worry about connecting these edges here, it just automatically fills them in. And then we're left with one single vertex, or one single edge right there, so we'll add in one more loop just to even it out, and then we can select those and hit F. There we go. That way that is nice and solid. We can now, what we want to do is we want to fill in this area as well. And so let's go in and, let's see, go back into vertex mode by hitting Control Tab. Just Alt right click to select this loop and see where it goes. So it goes all the way up through there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an edge loop in, scroll it over, and then hit G, X, and snap it right to this vertex here. Or actually, we'll go ahead and snap it to that one, and we'll add in a second one right there, which will snap here. And even though we're not going to connect these, we are going to go ahead and select this whole loop, and we can see it right here. So what I want to do is, from the side view, we're going to hit period to scale towards the cursor, hit E to extrude, right click, and then S and Shift X so we don't scale along the X axis. Scale this in just a bit, and then we're going to go ahead and we can see what that'll do over here. We'll need to go and add in another edge loop right up there to sharpen that up, and that follows all the way along down through here, keeping that nice and sharp. Let's go and select this mesh. We're going to hit Shift H to hide everything else, and we'll go ahead and bring this down, and we're not going to take it all the way, but we'll go ahead and snap it along the Z axis right to there, and then we'll go and add in a loop, bring it down, snap it along the Z axis to there, and then we'll just go ahead and fill in that face, and whoops, not that one, this one. And then we can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Add in 5 edge loops. And then we can go ahead and connect these in Control Tab, go into Edge Mode, fill these. Even though this would technically have, I assume, a bolt or some kind going through here for the stock, we're not going to worry about it as long as we've got the solid mesh such that it gives the impression that we have a nice solid mesh going back there. That'll help add a lot of depth. And you'll notice that this needs to be merged on here, so we're just going to select this edge, pull it down, and then hit X and delete edge loops. And I was originally going to pull it down closer so that it would merge with these ones, but apparently that didn't work. So we'll select these, hit F to fill a triangle, then select the other edge and this one here, which will create select both triangles, and then hit F, and that will merge those into a single quad. You can see that now that we've done that, we really ought to, we've got a odd result right there. Oh, that's because this needs to come on back. So what I'm going to do is switch into vertex mode. I'm going to select all these, deselect these, go over here, and we're going to have to do some work over there. So we're going to deselect that and just go to this point, and we're going to hit E to extrude along the y-axis, snap to right there, hit S, Y, and 0. Except I don't want to scale towards the cursor, so I'll hit comma, then S, Y, and 0, and now I can snap to there, and then I'll extrude again, snap to there, select everything, W, remove doubles. Now that works nicely. And I now want to go in and fix up these areas here. You'll notice that we have these couple vertices that, one, are too high. They've been moved along at some point or another. GZ, take it down to there. Hit Control Tab, go into face mode. I'm just going to select these faces and these faces and these faces. And then I'll snap down to right there. Take these vertices here, snap, excluding the y-axis, so hit Shift Y and then snap right to there. And then same thing with these ones, I'm going to hit G and Z, snap to there. And now that's all nice and even, or at least it should be. So if we go through here, we should be able to now take these edges and scroll over here. We're going to hit E to extrude, X, snap to there, and snap to here. And then, yeah, there we go. So these are now merged as well. Select everything, W, remove doubles, removes all these. We'll select these, pull them back along the X-axis. Notice on some of these we removed a double that we shouldn't have. So we'll pull these back to about there. And then we're going to select these faces, hit X, delete faces, take this edge, hit E to extrude, take along the Y, snap to there, and then we can fill that, merge those as a face, select everything, W, remove doubles, and then we will go ahead and fill that face and fill that face. And maybe we'll take that along the y-axis just to smooth that out. Okay, so that gives us a nice solid mesh, particularly because we see some of that right in here. We can maybe go ahead and take this edge loop, maybe deselect it over here, and we'll just pull it down just a bit more. Okay, hit Alt-H to unhide everything, and we can see it coming along a little bit. I know it doesn't feel like we're making a lot of progress right now, but we definitely are. What I want to do is to go ahead and put in some of these major areas. Actually, I want to go ahead and select this and select this, and we're just going to actually do that. Pull this back to there. There we go, just get a tighter fit right in there. We'll hit Alt-H to unhide everything. And one thing that I want to go ahead and do, this is perhaps a bit large. I'm going to hit S and Shift-Y, then scale it down just a little bit. And I'm going to add in another loop to sharpen that up like so. Okay, now these also tend to have a little bit of a divot in them, so we can go ahead and select this. And we're going to hit E to extrude, right click, and then scale down, and then we'll pull in just a little bit. That'll be a subtle detail, but it'll help. We can also then scale that up to even it out a little bit. So it'll just add a little bit more interest to that, that pin. Okay, so now on this side, let's just go ahead and add in this piece and this piece, which are not going to be symmetrical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this. Actually, we're just going to hit Shift S, cursor to selected. Now I'm going to hit Shift A, add in a mesh and a circle. On the circle, I'm going to hit F6. I'm going to change the vertex count over to 12 and the radius to 0.1, just like that. Hit Enter. Then I'm going to go ahead and hit G, Z, pull it up to be approximately centered here. Doesn't have to be exact. Then we'll hit Tab. We're going to rotate this 90 degrees, move it over along the X-axis to be about right there. And then we're going to hit E to extrude, take it out along the X-axis. And then I'm going to E extrude again along the X-axis, and that looks to be about the right size. So I want to go ahead and create this basic pin completely straight for the time being, and then we will rotate it around. So I'm going to extrude it down, and again, and then I'm going to go ahead and fill this all. So I'll select these, fill them with a face, do this for each one. And now I'm going to see everything, so I'm going to add in a loop right about there for this edge. I know you can't see it very well, but if you follow along with the other references, you'll be able to see this real well. And then I'm going to go ahead and select this and select this. I'm going to hit E to extrude, right click, and then S and Shift X. So that way I scale excluding the X-axis, and I can scale down to about the width of the pin, just about like that. It's not very much. And then I'm going to left click to confirm it. I'm going to hit B and middle click and drag across this vertex or this edge loop. So then I can just pull this out along the X-axis a little bit like that to match this angle. And then I can go and add in an edge loop right there to sharpen that up, and another one there to sharpen that up. And I'll go ahead and add in my subdivision surface modifier. I can go ahead and select this loop right here by alt right clicking on it. And if you just kind of alt right click and just keep clicking, you'll cycle through them. And then I'm just going to hit V to rip that apart, right click, and then G and X. Whoops, and I've got the wrong one, so I'm just going to alt right click to select that one, and I can see it's selected based on the edges. And I'll just pull it back along the X-axis like that. I'll go and select this one, hit E to extrude, take it back a little bit, and then I'll add in an edge loop right up to that edge to make that nice and sharp. Now if I go ahead and select everything, W, and shade smooth, I'll pull it out along the Y-axis to about there. Let's hit Control N to fix those normals, and now we can see about what this looks like. We can see we need to go and add in an edge loop up to about right there, because this has a kind of a rounded form on it. And maybe these loops here are slightly too large, so we'll just hit S and Shift X, scale them down, and go ahead and scale that down to make that nice and sharp still. And that looks pretty good. On this piece, we'll go ahead and add in the detail on it, and this has just rings on it. So what we can do is we're going to select this, and we're going to scale this right down to the center, about like that. And then we're just going to add in, say, looks like there's basically between here and here, there's 2 rings or 2 ridges. And so I want to get basically 8 edge loops. So right here, well, actually, I can do it just like, yeah, just like that. So 4, and now hit Control Tab to go into face mode. I'm going to Alt right click here, Shift right click here, and here, oops, here, and now I can just go ahead and hit E to extrude, take it back a little bit along the normal, about like that, and that will give me those rings. And now, if I hit Control Tab, go into vertex mode, I might go ahead and select all of these. And there may be a little bit, or I'm going to deselect these ones here, and there may be a little bit too large right now. I want more perimeter around here, so I'm going to hit S and Shift X again, and then just scale these down about like that. And there we go, that creates that perfectly. So now we need to go ahead, and we can see that this looks to be, let's see, looking through some of my other references, yeah, that's perfectly straight, so that makes it a lot easier. So what I want to do is select everything in edit mode, and let's just rotate this around. Looks like it's going to be at about a 10-degree angle. So let's just hit R and 10, oops, R and -10 from the top view, and that will take that in perfectly. And that's not going to be, let's see, this is going to go from here to here. And so what we need to do is we're going to pull this back, and now we need to go ahead and rotate this until it touches in both points, basically. So we've got some clearance here, and it's basically touching there. So let's undo that and just see exactly how much that is. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to rotate this another -10 degrees, such that it's a 20-degree angle coming out from the gun. And we can just pull this back about like that. And then we also need to go ahead and lower this down to be right in the center here. Keep in mind that this gun here on our reference is tilted down slightly, such that the nose is a little bit lower, and so we can't follow that exactly. And maybe we could go ahead and rotate that back just a little bit, or we'll just pull it out just a little bit. That looks pretty good. Maybe we'll go ahead and pull it in just a little bit more. And I think this circle may be a little bit too large, so we may need to adjust that. But it looks pretty good. Just so we don't see the difference, I'm going to go ahead and assign the same material, which is, well, actually, does this have a material? No, it doesn't. Okay, so now we can go ahead, and I want to go ahead and, this actually has a flat piece now that just comes straight back here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select from here to here to here, and to here. I'm then just going to select all these vertices. We're going to select these, and it seems I missed one or two back there. Select these, here we go. And now we're just going to hit E to extrude, immediately right click, and hit G, Y, pull them back along the Y axis like this. We can hit S, Y, and 0. Pull them back there, and I'm going to hit Shift H to hide everything else. And we can see that there's an issue right in here, which what I'm going to do is we're just going to select these vertices, hit X and delete vertices. And we can go ahead and delete these faces as well. And then I can add in an edge loop right up to that edge, which will make that nice and sharp. And Oops, undo that. And we'll hit Alt-H to see how that looks. And that looks pretty good. Although I don't think it's quite accurate, but it'll probably be accurate enough for the time being. Then we also need to go ahead and, this actually needs to be even with this exactly right here. So we'll pull that up. We can see we need to pull it out along the y-axis just a little bit. About like that. We can select this, and we're going to hit G and ZZ. We'll move it in along the normal, and we can just pull this back in a bit like that. And there we go. This surface actually needs to line up exactly with this, and so what we need to do is we're going to select all this. We're going to move it along the x-axis until this line here lines up perfectly like that. Pull it back along the y-axis just a little bit, and then what I want to do is we're going to select all of these. Now let's just go ahead and select this, and we're going to hide that. We'll select all of this, deselect that in there, deselect that. There we go. And we'll grab all of these here, and we're going to hit S, X, and 0, and then hit G, X, and snap to there, such that that is now solid. We'll go ahead and grab this, hit G, Z, Z, move along the normal, although in order to do that, we actually need more mesh. So let's hit Alt-H, and we'll hit now just G, Z, Z, and now we actually have a normal to follow. Pull that back, and then we can see that we need to go ahead and grab this area, or these two in here. We'll pull them out along the y-axis right about there, and there we go. That creates that very nicely. We can see that maybe we need to add in another edge loop here to sharpen that up to be about the same as that. Later on we may go ahead and merge those, but for the time being we're not going to worry about it. And then we can actually see that this needs to come back a little bit, so we're going to select these areas and these areas, and we're going to pull them back along the x-axis about like that, and then we will even it up by pulling these ones back as well. Pull this back. Okay, that should be close enough, at least for the time being. And let's see. We're making really good progress now, although we're coming up on a full hour. Again, that time goes obnoxiously quick when we're doing this at times. But let's go and add in this piece here. And let's also, just real quick, just so that this isn't, well, this is bugging me right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this, hit E to extrude, scale it up, and then E to extrude, and just pull it in like that. Okay, there we go. So now it actually looks like it's more attached. We'll bring this in a bit more. We'll maybe also go ahead and scale this up, and then Control R, add a loop, bring it out like this. Control R, bring it all the way down, then scale down to there. There we go, just so that seems a bit more finished. And let's go ahead and do, let's see, this right here should not be coming out like this, so we're going to select these, hit X, delete the edge loops, then we'll select these and bring them in all the way to there. Then we're going to select this, hit E to extrude, and scale it down to about like that, just to make that line up nicely. We're going to save our file, and let's see if there's any last minute things we can do. We can go ahead and quickly do this pin right here, which what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select this. We're going to select this pin, hit Shift D, bring it over along the x-axis, bring it up. We're going to go ahead and just scale it up to be about right there. And then we want to just invert this basically. So I'm going to hit S, Y, and -1, which will invert it. And then pull it out along the y-axis a little bit. We can grab this at that edge as well, pull that out. And now that's rounded like it should be. And let's see, that's going to select the whole pin with L, bring it in along the y-axis, about like that. And we can see that this angle here is not right. And so what I want to do is we need to go ahead and grab this whole area. And we'll grab this area here. And we're just going to hit G, X, and snap right to there, although that's maybe a little too far, about like that. And now that's much more accurate, so now we just need to go ahead and fix these edges here. If we go ahead and hit bring these back, you can see that that's not going to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these areas here. I'm going to hit X, delete the face. I'm going to go ahead and grab these, or delete that vertex. And then I'm going to add in another edge loop right here, which then I will bring up to that. And we're going to add in one more edge loop, which will bring over to that. And then we can go ahead and merge these three. So we're going to hit W merge at first. Oops. Which will merge right over to that. And then we can go ahead and select these, select that vertex, delete the edge loop, do the same thing again. That will merge these again. And we just need to fill that face. And then we can go ahead and fill that with a single face, pull that up so it doesn't pinch. And then we can fill that in. And what we want to do then is to go ahead and delete these faces again as well, because we need to bring this edge all the way over to there. So we'll grab this, we're going to bring it over to there. I'm just snapping those along Shift Y such that it excludes the y-axis. And then we can go ahead and we're going to bring these down to there. We'll bring that over along the x-axis, or just snap it right to that vertex. And select everything W and remove doubles. I'm going to pull this one down a little bit further, and then we're going to fill that right there. And then we can go ahead and, let's see, this line follows right along here, goes all the way back. This line actually needs to come down to be right about there. This needs to come up. These needs to come up. This needs to be much more rounded. This is actually too tall right now. That looks a little bit better. And keep in mind, some of this isn't going to end up completely accurate, particularly since we're, a lot of our references are different models of the M4. There's going to be variations in them. And so we're bound to get some differences. Hopefully those aren't too bad and we can live with them. I know I at least can live with them. I'm just pulling these down. Let's bring that back up a little bit. And what that does is going to create that edge right there that we actually see in the model just a little bit, although we want to now go ahead and bring these back along the y-axis there, excluding that vertex. And that's a bit of a mess. We may need to clean that up, but what I want to do now is to go ahead and extrude this one down a little bit, which will fill with that. Then we'll fill those. And then we're going to go ahead, we're going to grab this, we're going to hit V to rip it apart, bring it up just a little bit, fill that face, take that to right there, take these ones to right there, fill that, then we can fill this, and finally we can fill that, getting us one solid mesh. We've got a bit of a mess right there though. Okay, we're going to undo that one, and we're going to undo this because it's not working well. We can go ahead and fill this just to even that out. What I want to go ahead and do is to go ahead and grab this. We're going to hit V, pull it back, select these ones, pull them back along the x-axis. We're going to go ahead and we'll need to add in one more. Well, let's see, we don't want to add in the loop there. We're going to grab this, pull it back, hit E to extrude, take it along the x-axis. Fill that. Then we can fill that. And that shouldn't... Alright, it does cause distortion, dang it. Okay, what we need to do is we're going to select this, we're going to Shift H, and we're going to delete all these faces right here. And the reason being is that I want to now go ahead and restructure some of this in here. The reason that it's having problems, we'll delete that, and then we're going to go ahead and just merge those together. We're going to merge it at last. One of the reasons it's having problems is we are getting a lot of pinching right in here. So we want to instead delete this face, and then we are going to bring this down right here. We're going to bring that down right there, keep that nice and even. And then this face here is going to get deleted. And this face here is going to get deleted. We can just select the edge, hit X, delete the edge. We'll add in this right here is going to hit V to rip it apart. And it's not wanting to, so we're going to select this edge, hit X, delete the edge, select everything, W, remove doubles because I ripped that. And we're going to add in an edge loop right here, which will then give us a little bit more control of how this is formed. So we'll add in an edge loop there as well, which then we can fill those. And we will fill this right here. Then we'll go ahead and delete that straight edge. We'll go ahead and delete these faces here just because they're in the way. We're going to select this. We're going to Alt-right click to select that, deselect these ones here, hit E to extrude, take it down to there, select everything, W, remove doubles, and now we can start filling in these areas along here. It means we can go ahead and get rid of this edge loop and this edge loop. And tentatively we can get rid of that edge loop. And we'll get rid of that one for the time being. Then we're going to select these. Actually, no, we don't want to get rid of that one. That one's actually very important because it fills in this, allowing us to get this nice smooth transition down to there. So what we need to do is we'll select this face, delete the face, add in one edge loop there, slide it back, select this one. We're going to go ahead and slide that down. And then we will fill that right there. And if we bring this back along the x-axis just a little bit, that ought to smooth it out. Fill that, oops, fill that, and fill that. And now that looks much better, although we want to go ahead and we've got two angles here where we should only have one, but we'll solve that in just a moment. Instead, what I want to do is we're going to select this area in here. We're going to hit E to extrude, right click, scale down a little bit, bring along the Y axis, and we're going to delete these faces. And the reason that we extrude that in is now we've got this loop here where we can just add that edge loop in right through there rather than going all the way around. And that way we can go ahead and connect these, and we'll connect these. Then we'll just add in an edge loop there, down, and merge those together at, let's see, at last, yes. Okay. And what we need to do is we need to get rid of this edge now, because these should be the same. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this edge loop, and then I'm going to grab these two vertices. I'm going to hit Control-3 to go to the back view and bring this out along the Y-axis along with these. I can about like that, such that they just come down evenly, merge with that, and then I can re-add in that edge loop to give me the sharp edge, although that's not working very well. Let's see. Instead, I could go ahead and we need that to be nice and sharp. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and slide that down, and I'm going to deselect these edges, Control-E, edge slide that back up just a little bit. Select these, deselect those ones there, edge slide that down a bit. Take this, bring it in along the x-axis to right about there. Snap that one over to match it. Control-3. And that's probably close enough, at least for the time being. Yeah, I think if we just go ahead and select that, pull it back a little bit, that ought to be close enough to be satisfactory. And what I'm doing then is this should technically be a little bit more down here, but we're not going to entirely worry about that. Instead, we're just going to grab this, we're going to scale it down a little bit, bring it back here a little bit more. Then let's go ahead and select these. We're going to hit Control-E, edge slide, bring that down around, and that gets nice and round. Hit Alt-H, unhide everything. Check that everything is still good. And these got moved a little bit, so we need to adjust this on the bottom side. And try to think the best way to go about evening this up. That ought to be close enough. It's close enough for me. Although we may want to select that one, pull it in a little bit more. Okay, that'll work. That'll be good enough for the time being. We're over an hour now, and so we're going to go ahead and call it quits, except yeah, we'll have to call it quits, unfortunately. So we will call it quits there for the time being, and see you on the next section. I know that this is, it's definitely tedious modeling, but it's good modeling, and with a lot of practice, you'll get a lot more comfortable with it. And if you're someone like me that really, really enjoys modeling, you may find yourself really loving this kind of work, because it's a great challenge. It's hard, but it's a lot of fun. So with that, I'll go ahead and leave you where we are, and see you next time. Thanks again for watching.